are you guys doing this morning? I'm standing over there thinking like, okay, I'm after the gentleman talking about saving lives through a vaccine, and then I'm before Gamma Therapeutics, and I have no idea what that is, but that sounds way more important than shoes. So hopefully you find whatever I have to talk about important or interesting at least. I'm also always surprised at how I'm able to actually, talk in front of some very smart people. I'm raised by a single parent. I'm the youngest of 6 kids in the inner city of Los Angeles with no formal real design school training. I never stepped foot in a design class in my life. But yet I had the big hairy goal of starting a design school. And then changing the education system and then redefining the whole industry. So I don't know how much bigger the goal could be than that. But what I want to do with my talk is kind of more so talk to you about or share my journey with you a bit to how I ended up standing in front of you today. Does that sound all right? All right, good. So on my journey, both as a kid and through where I am today, there's 6 things that seem to keep popping up for me. The first one is having vision. And I think at some point, each of you are going to have this same experience, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or all of them at some point. So having vision of clarity of what you want to do. That's the first thing. The second one is belief. So passion, belief, but believing in yourself that you can actually achieve whatever that vision is that you set out for yourself. The third one is rejection. It's going to happen. How are you going to deal with it? Get used to it, because it's just a part of the journey. The fourth one is called motivation, whether that's positive or negative. Me, I'm an extremely competitive person. I work for the most competitive athlete on earth, in Michael Jordan. And one of the things for me is I always used rejection as a sign of motivation. So I recommend you guys get used to rejection because it could be a great motivation factor. I created what I call the thank you wall, which is all of those rejection comments, thoughts, all of those things. The other is opportunity. I think you're going to be faced with opportunities. The critical point is going to be what you're going to do with those opportunities when they do present themselves. And then the other one is hard work. It's going to take you a lot of hard work to get to where you're going to be, but also it's going to take just as much hard work to continue to stay wherever your goal is that you're trying to reach. So my whole life and my journey has consisted of those things. So for me, like I mentioned to you before, I was raised in the inner city, Inglewood, California. So I'm not a native Portland, Oregonian, but now I am. I have no desire to move back to California. It's a horrible place. So for me, yes. For me, like I said, I had a vision early. When I was 11 years old, I knew I wanted to be a footwear designer. I just didn't have no idea how that was going to happen. Everyone around me as well, they want to be athletes. They want to be actors. They want to be entertainers on some level, but I'm the weird kid who wants to draw shoes all day long. I was born with the gift to draw anything I could see. It's just the shoes were always better than the rest of the person. So growing up all through middle school, all through high school, this is what I did was I just drew shoes. I played basketball in high school. I didn't like our team colors was green and white, so I would go and customize all of my own shoes, green and white. And then my teammates started paying me to customize their shoes green and white so we can all match. So I had my own little business when I was in high school customizing shoes. This is in the mid-late 80s. So I was pre-Nike ID before Nike knew what Nike ID was going to be. But this goal of mine, my vision was to be a footwear designer, and I had rejection. I worked like most kids. I don't even know if kids do it today. I worked at McDonald's. I had that summer job to basically supply my sneaker habit. While I was there, I told my manager, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to become a footwear designer. Like, no, don't do that. You can work your way up at McDonald's. You can be assistant manager. You can be a manager. You can have your own store one day. And next thing you know, you're making $40,000 a year. And I'm like, whoa, okay, that's not what I'm interested in doing. But they told me, no, don't do that. In high school, same conversation. I go to my guidance counselor, telling her, hey, this is what I do. What school should I go to become a footwear designer? She goes, I don't know, you know, black people don't do that. You shouldn't do that. I'm like, okay, that's not good either. So I have all these people telling me not to do what I'm most passionate about and what I thought my vision was. And then one day I found this ad in the LA Times, the smallest ad you can place is 1/4 of an inch by 1 inch. And it was a Reebok design competition, and they were looking to hire a new designer. So I entered the competition and ended up winning the competition. The problem was they were expecting a college graduate or another professional coming in to accept the job. I was 17 years old. So that didn't work either. So that rejection was good because I've taken it out on Reebok for a long time now. So that helped. So again, there's that competitive thing that I love. It keeps me going. But then it's, you know, that was even though that was rejection, it was a moment of at least I knew I could do this. So after graduating from high school, I couldn't afford to attend a design school, so I ended up going to Santa Monica College, studying business, marketing, advertising, and management. Because I knew at some point I would have my own business, just didn't know what it was going to do, didn't know what I was going to do. I ended up giving up on the idea of being a footwear designer until I got a job as a file clerk at LA Gear, filing papers. For those of you who don't know, LA Gear is a footwear company, used to be a footwear company. And this was in the late 80s, shortly after I graduated, and they were looking for new ideas and ways to make the company better. And I figured, hey, I'm at a footwear company. I knew I could do better than the designers that were there, so let me suggest that they should make better shoes. So every day I would put sketches in a suggestion box. It's a wooden box, about a foot high. For 6 months straight, that's all I did, every day. And until the owner of the company called me into his office and he had all 180 of my sketches and said, I heard you're the kid that's been doing this. Do you want to work here? So I was like, yeah, I just turned 19 years old. And of course I'll take that job. So I started as a designer at the age of 19. So I learned on the job. So my education was physically doing the work. I was at LA Gear for about 4 years, left there. Moved to Michigan, worked for a small company there, came back, worked for the owner of LA Gear, started this company called Skechers USA. Came back to California, worked with him for another 7 years, left, started my own design firm, and then this company in Oregon called and said, hey, we're looking for someone to help us take out timberland. And I knew nothing about Oregon, I just thought it was cows and trees. Again, I'm from California. I'm just used to concrete and palm trees. We didn't have grass where I grew up. So I moved to Portland to take a job at Nike. I was at Nike for 1 year, and then I transferred over to the Jordan brand. And I became the design director for the Jordan brand after my first year here. Nike was a vision, that was a goal. First, it was just to be a designer, check. Second was to work for Nike, check. I didn't imagine ever working for Jordan, that just wasn't realistic to me, but it taught me not to set small goals. So I was able to achieve that, but along the way, I started to notice how when I was looking for talent, I didn't like what I was seeing coming out of design schools. I just didn't feel like schools were preparing kids to work. So instead of me hiring and just settling, I started training designers when they were in high school and college, preparing them for internship opportunities, and then ultimately working with me. So it took me 4 years to actually get the person that I really wanted to get. So I started my own kind of recruiting program at Nike when I was in Jordan. And what I realized was it went back to my original vision of being a designer when I was a kid. Because when I was looking for a school that taught footwear, there were no schools that did teach footwear. And here I am, 15 years in this industry, and there were still no schools that taught footwear. So then that idea started to percolate again. What would it be like to create a school that was dedicated to footwear design. And so I continued to mentor and develop talent, and by my 10th year, I ended up having about 15 designers that work at Nike, still to this day, that were all a part of me mentoring them and training them and developing them while they were in college, and creating my own farm system, creating my own team. And then one day I was like, I need to take some time off, took my sabbatical, I took 8 weeks off, normally it's 4, I took 8. And I had this crazy idea to start a school. Let me see what happened. Actually, my first class was right there at the White Stag building. And I started it, it's called Pensole, because like the gracious host said, I drew everything by hand. I did everything with a number 2 pencil. still to this day, I still do everything with the number 2 pencil. So let me fast forward. It gave me 3 minutes. I thought you can give me a 5-minute break. All right, all right.
I got really interested in what you're saying.
Oh, you lost count, so I got to get a couple minutes back? No, okay, all right. All right, so fast forward. All right, fast forward, yes, exactly. So fast forward, I started this school, and my goal was, no one knew me in the education world. People knew me in the footwear world. And so I started this school. My goal going in was, how do I be, the best school? I didn't want to just be another school. So in order for me to be the best school, I need to be with the best people. So when I launched the school, I partnered with U of O. After that class, I partnered with the top design schools in the U.S. MIT, Parsons, Art Center in California. So I went from down here to up here in a quick amount of time. Once I got there, then I left the biggest brand in the industry. So the industry knew who I was, but now they can work with me. When I was at Nike, no one could work with me. So for me, my whole journey has been about brand association. So I started working with, now I work with over 30 different companies, over 150 different design schools globally. I work with the top leather, textile, synthetic suppliers in the world. I work with some of the top digital suppliers in the world. And now I'm in the process of working with the top retailers in the world. Because I want to change education. I want to change education from the point of view of, I want schools to care about who they release and call their own as graduates. So every one of my students, you know what you're getting when you get one of my kids. Up to this point, I have 60 students working now professionally at over 30 different companies in the United States, in the globe. My next vision is to dominate the whole industry, because I have to set one goal and keep going. And for me now, I partner with the largest trade show in the United States. So now every 6 months, I'm in front of this school. I'm in front of the whole industry. I've created my own program. It's called Future of Footwear. It's like the American Idol of footwear. So I launch brands with my students, all powered by students, sold at some of the top retailers around the world. That's the quick story. I spent too much on the first part. Sorry, and you messed up my 2 minutes. All right, so my advice to you again is I went back to those 6 things where I always had a big vision of where I wanted to be and where I wanted to go. I used rejection as a form of motivation, and my thank you wall. I work harder than anyone else. There's always going to be people that are more talented than you, but you should never let anyone outthink you or outwork you. That's something that you can control. And then the last one is my belief. So for me, here's my number 2 pencil. My whole journey has been around with this thing right here. It's taken me all over the world and met some amazing people. And then this is my most important thing I've ever owned. This is a car my mother gave me when I was 16 years old. And it says believe on it. My mother's no longer here. And this is the most valuable thing I have on earth, because this tells me I can do whatever I want to do. And if I can come from where I came from and get to the point where I'm still climbing, all of you guys should be able to do it too. You have no excuse not to succeed. But just have that vision, have that passion, have that focus, and be original at what you're doing. If you be original at what you're doing and have all those things associated with it, you'll get to where you want to be. All right? Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that.